If there's one thing I can say about Caledonia Works, it's that they've been very productive throughout 2025. Today's topic is a brand new release from the aforementioned developer, namely the Great Western Railway 2251 class, otherwise known as the Collett Goods. This might be the last TS Classic review I make for a little while, as I want to try focusing more on Train Sim World and real-life train spotting videos to lighten my self-imposed workload. This is not the first time we've seen a 2251 in TS, as there was previously a freeware model from K&G Trains, but that was released over a decade ago, and if you want to see what that looked like, I refer you to the early seasons of the Dark Railway series. More recently, in 2016, Digital Traction released a version of their own, but both of the older models have since been superseded by CW's version. I never had the older K&G model, so it won't appear in this video, but I can at least do a side-by-side comparison between the DT and CW models. The main differences that stick out to me are the textures and size of the smokebox door. From what I gather, CW's Collett Goods add-on was done as a special commission. Release day was the 14th of October 2025, and the 2251 is available on CW's website for £20, or $48.74 NZD. £20 is the absolute limit of how much I'm prepared to pay for a TS Classic add-on these days, and even then, I'll only pay full price for an add-on in which I'm genuinely interested. Incidentally, and thinking back to what I said about CW being very productive, less than a week after the 2251 was released, they brought out a unique 260 known as Galloping Gertie. She's cheaper than I was expecting, at only £10, or $24.56 NZD, but I do not intend to make a video about Gertie anytime soon. As for what the 2251 even is, this is a type of 060 tender engine designed by Charles Collett and built at Swindon Works between 1930 and 1948, with a total build-out of 120 locomotives. They were intended to replace the older 2301 Dean Goods class on mixed traffic duties, particularly in Central and North Wales. Incidentally, CW has also modelled the Dean Goods as an add-on for Train Simulator, but I haven't got the add-on yet, so she won't be appearing in this video. Meanwhile, the 9400 class 060 pannier tank of 1947 is effectively a tank engine version of the 2251 class, sharing the same boiler and all. Incidentally, the 9400 will feature prominently in the next Random Thoughts video. The numbering for the 2251 class was interesting, in a sense. The first 49 members of the class were numbered from 2251 to 2299, but the next batch, built between 1938 and 1945, were numbered from 2200 to 2250. I'm not sure why those more recent engines had lower numbers. In any case, the last batch of 2251s, built between 1946 and 1948, were numbered from 3200 to 3219. Locomotive number 3217 was notable for being the very last engine built by the GWR prior to the formation of British Railways. 30 members of the class, namely 2211 through to 2240, were built during World War II, and originally lacked cabside windows to assist with blackout regulations. Speaking of which, I've seen enough episodes of Dad's Army to understand the concept of blackout regulations. Although that show is primarily a comedy, it still teaches you a decent amount about how life was like in England during the war. After which, the 2251s built without cabside windows were refitted with conventional cabs. The 2251s were successful locomotives, carrying out all sorts of duties, such as pick up freight or stopping passenger services, throughout the GWR network, which later became the Western region of British Railways. Some of them even worked on the High Bridge branch of the Somerset and Dorset line, after the S&D was transferred to Western Region Control in 1958. But speaking of the year 1958, that's when the first member of this class was withdrawn. Withdrawals continued until 1965, with number 2210 being the last of her class to remain in service. Only one Collett Goods, namely 3205, has survived into preservation, and she can be found at the South Devon Railway, but her original base as a preserved locomotive was the Severn Valley Railway. I saw 3205 when I went to Buckfastleigh, but she was parked in a siding without her tender, and this was the best shot I could get of the engine. There's a lot to unpack in terms of what you get with the Caledonia Works Collett Goods. As always, we'll start off with the included liveries, of which there are 9, and the selection is as follows. GWR Green, 1930 to 1934, GWR Green, 1934 to 1942, GWR Green, 1942 to 1948, GWR Wartime Black, BR Transitional Green, 1948 to 1949, BR Unlined Black, BR Lined Black, BR Unlined Green, and BR Lined Green. As someone who doesn't like the overexposure of British Railways liveries in the preservation era, it's ironic that my favourite livery in the Collett Goods pack is actually BR Lined Green. I don't know about you, but personally, I think the BR Green livery looks a bit weird without lining, especially after seeing 5552 the Small Prairie in unlined green. In any case, there are no dedicated preservation-era variants of 3205 included, but you can at least use the existing variants to represent the preserved engine. 2 tender types are included, namely the standard Churchwood or intermediate Collett, and both of them have a water capacity of only 3,500 chocolate biscuits. Actually, I should be correct, it's 3,500 gallons. Some 2251s also ran with ROD tenders at one point, but those haven't been included in the CW pack. Not yet anyway. For the time being, if you really want to run a Collett Goods with the ROD tender, you could use the tender from the Great Central Railway 8K pack, which also includes the GWR 3000 class. The 3000s were a batch of 100 ex-ROD 280s bought by the Great Western after World War I. The 2251 makes use of SimNation's Locomotion 2.0 scripting, and includes the usual large amount of features that I've come to expect from modern CW products. The features include, but are not limited to, Performance Mode Pro, which is toggled on or off by pressing Shift-P, Realistic Adhesion, with dynamic scripting for wheel slip in all weather and seasonal conditions, Realistic Performance Physics, Realistic Regulator and Steam Chest Simulation, although I always forget what a steam chest is, Custom Auto Fireman, which is toggled on or off by pressing Ctrl R, Fire Intensity synchronized with the exhaust beat, Animated Valve Gear in between the frames, although it's a little bit hard to see, and the option to toggle between simple or advanced driving modes by pressing Ctrl A. At this point, I'm well accustomed to driving CW locomotives in advanced mode, but it's good to still see simple mode as an option for anyone who wants to use it. There's also a good selection of customizable details, although the amount of customization will depend on the variant you choose in the scenario editor. As a demonstration, here is the BR lined green with late crest variant. On this one, you can change the chimney cap, safety valve bonnet, which looks better as polished brass if you ask me, cab side details, whistle guard, a really feckin' big snowplow, overhead warning stickers, and ATC equipment under the front buffer beam. From what I gather, ATC was a predecessor, of sorts, to AWS. If you've got a snowplow on your engine and the season is set to winter, you'll see snow particles once the engine accelerates past 10 miles per hour. Thinking back to the lamps, the 2251 has a customizable head code arrangement, and you can have either red or white lamps on the GWR variants, but only white lamps for the BR variants. On top of the features and customizability, the Collett Goods also has a decent sound set, with audio recorded from the preserved locomotive number 3205 and other GWR steamers. The whistles sound very similar to, if not the same as, what I've heard on previous GWR add-ons from CW and other developers. Regardless, I still like the sound that results from blasting both whistles at the same time. I know the Collett Goods were hardly speed demons, but even then, I was still curious to see just how fast one of these engines can go. I took 2216, which incidentally has the same number as one of the old DSC shunters in New Zealand, on a run from Stockland Bristol to Glastonbury, on GAD's Great Western Levels route, with some concertina coaches and a Siphon G in tow. On this run, I got the locomotive up to an absolute top speed of 58.6 miles per hour, with that speed being reached around 0.22 miles west of Puritan Station, or as I call it, Cold Lonely Puritan, in reference to a lyric from the Marianne Faithfull song Broken English. When you're driving the Collett Goods, it's important to keep the fire mass around 57% and the water level between 70 and 90%, as marked on the F4 heads-up display. As an aside, I think CW should put a link to the manual on the store listings. At present, you can't view the manual until after you've bought an add-on and downloaded it from the website. In closing, I'm impressed with this new rendition of the Great Western Railway 2251 class, with my only criticisms of the pack being the very noticeable loop on the spacebar whistle when stationary, as well as the lack of animation on the reverser rod, something that has been a feature on previous CW products. On the whole, I think CW is onto a winner with the Collett Goods. If you're a fan of the GWR, or just want a small tender engine of any kind to run on a branch line or short mainline service, then the 2251 class is worth a try, although I will leave it up to you to decide whether or not you'll get the pack at full price or wait for a sale. As for where I'd rate the 2251 class, I think she deserves an oddly specific 8.376 out of 10, and if you've stuck around to the end of the video, you win an opportunity to get numerous injuries inflicted by an obscure Great Western 260. It's the 30 Gertie Hurties,